What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Travis. This is TWA Motorsports, and today we are back on the wife's Audi. We got a new method for bleeding the brakes. So I don't know if you guys didn't catch the video. I replaced the brake pads on this because I was sick and tired of cleaning the wheels. Well, when I did that, I had issues with the passenger side. I actually had issues with both the rear brakes, getting those pistons back into place so I could get the rotor or it around the rotor with the pads in it was just incredibly hard. And so I got that tool to actually do that the correct way, but because I couldn't get it done that day, I had to break the brake line loose on this side. So ever since I've done that, the brakes have been really spongy. So I had my son come out. He helped me bleed the brakes with the two-person method. But honestly, guys, a lot of times I'm working by myself, and I think this is a better method. So what we are going to do today is we are going to attempt to power bleed them with this new power bleeder that I bought from Motive Products. And I'll list all this stuff in the description down below. Not only did I get the main unit itself, but I also got the European adapter, so for like a car like this. And I also got the GM adapter, so for like everything else, the newer stuff GM. This one here on the left will work. And then I got a catch can, which makes life a little easier on you. I was just using like an old water bottle before, but this one has a tether on it. And then a lot of people will glue a magnet to it to make it a little bit easier. But like I said, I'll list all this stuff in the description down below. The very first thing I want to try, though, is because I'm not 100% sure that it's not still leaking. I haven't seen any spots where it was leaking, except right after I'd done it. And so what I want to do is we're going to hook this thing up with no fluid in it. So on these guys, they're actually underneath this little cubby here. Holy cow. All right, so this guy here, I'm going to unscrew that. We're going to hook it up with nothing in it. And I'm just going to pump this up to about 15 pounds, and we're going to let it set for 5 minutes to make sure that we don't have any air leaks, because if we have any leaks, bleeding this whole system is going to be irrelevant. So there's no reason to go ahead and put fluid in there and bleed all of these if we've got a leak. And so if I have a leak, then we're probably going to have to rebuild this caliper over here, because that's the one that I had the main issue with, and the one that if it does have a leak, I suspect will be the one. So let's get this all hooked up. Not a whole lot to do here. We just got to screw this connection on and then pump this up. At this point, you can see I have the new billet cap on, and I chose to go with the billet one instead of the plastic one. I think it just probably will last longer. And they make a quick disconnect that I really probably need to buy here, but I need to make this connection with the actual pump. And so I am going to put some Teflon tape on this. It just sucks that each time you switch from like the European, which hopefully I don't have to use a ton, and the GM one, you're gonna have to re-Teflon tape it, but not a big deal. The other thing is the joints here are metric. Generally when I see a brass fitting like this, I immediately go to standard wrenches, but this is actually a 14 millimeter on this side and a 17 on the pump side. So we're gonna go ahead and get that hooked up before we pressurize. So I went just shy of 15, and so we're gonna let it set for about 5 minutes and see what it drops to. Now I will tell you guys, it took several pumps, and to me it should pressurize up a little quicker than that. So I'm thinking, I double checked all the lines and hoses, but we're gonna see, we'll see if it bleeds off. Hopefully it doesn't. If it doesn't, then we're gonna go ahead and probably take the wheels off this thing, get it off the ground, and go ahead and see if we can get some fluid in it. At this point, guys, it's been 5 minutes and it has not moved at all. So now what we need to do is I need to go ahead and get this thing off the ground. I'm gonna get all fours off the ground because I'm probably gonna bleed the entire system. So what we need to do, you never want to relieve the pressure on the cap. You wanna relieve the pressure here. So we're gonna loosen this up and relieve the pressure, and then we're gonna put at least 2 quarts in that. We're gonna pump it back up to around 15, 14, something like that. Do not go over 20. Guys, if you put too much pressure on that, you're gonna blow up your master. You don't want that. That would be a freaking nightmare, especially in a car like this where it's buried under a whole bunch of stuff. So I'm gonna see if I can get this thing off the ground. There's not a ton of places to support this car. I think I'm gonna take those little plastic pieces off the side like I showed you guys when I did the brakes, and see if we can get all 4 wheels off. That way, you know, I'm not having to do the back, put the wheels back on, and then do the front. I really wanna have them all off in order to do this. The unfortunate part here is that there is no spot on the front of this where I feel comfortable putting one jack in the center. and lifting it up. So what I did was I've got the back. I was able to lift the back how I showed you guys in the brake change video. There's a cross member right in front of the rear end that's a good place to jack. And you could get one jack in there. So I jacked it up, put the jack stands in the actual place where the little panels pull off. And then, so then I was able to get the back. I did the back first. Well, on the front, because there's no area where I feel comfortable jacking it, I'm just using 2 jacks. So I've got one on this side and one on the other. And then I'm just gonna slide a couple jack stands underneath like the A-arms for just safety. So at this point, we're gonna go ahead, knock the wheels off this thing and get this process started. Now we have all the wheels off, and it's all supported by jack stands and of course the 2 jacks in the front. But I went ahead and put 2 quarts in here, that's what they call for, in this thing, and in the reservoir, I guess, the pump. And I pumped it up to just under 15 pounds, and it's been sitting here for probably a couple minutes while I've been doing other things, getting stuff ready. But fluid has started to push into the actual master. And so what we need to do is we need to start at the furthest caliper away. So this being the one actually I had the most issues with, I'm going to start there anyway, but this is where I would start if I were doing this from scratch, because you want to go here, and then the passenger or the driver's side, and then you're going to want to come up front, and generally they call to do the front bleeder first and then the outer bleeder, and then when we go to the driver's side and do the same thing. So we're going to see here, I've got a couple towels laid out, got some brake clean, and I've got the bleeder ready to go. So all we need to do is hook our little container here up, which, guys, you don't even understand how excited I am about this container. I've always used, like I said, an old bottle, but this thing is going to make life way easier. It's actually meant to do that. And like I said, it's got a thing to hang it if you want to hang it on something so you're not trying to do stuff with one hand. So all we're going to do is, if you have a line wrench, that's what I'm using, an 11mm line wrench on this specific car. Generally GMs are 10, but we need to put our little tube here. If you don't have a line wrench, just use a box wrench. And to me, the easiest way is to put it on the actual tube and then hook the tube up. But we're going to go ahead and see how much we can get out of this. So a couple things you need to watch while you're doing this is you need to make sure your pressure doesn't go below like probably 7 on the pump up front. So after we open this valve, once it runs for a little bit, we're going to go check the pressure up front, make sure we're good there. And then if it needs to, we'll pump it up some more, come back and keep doing it until we get basically no air. You guys are probably familiar if you're bleeding brakes. You don't want any air bubbles. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's crack this thing open and see if anything comes out. I'm going to hope, guys, that it does. Not getting a lot. This thing's really stubborn. Look how slow that's coming out. It's coming. It's just really slow. We're getting a couple air bubbles there. That's good. I don't know if you guys can see those little bubbles coming up through there. This is unlike any brake caliper I've ever bled before, even when I was doing like the two people method where I have somebody pump up the brakes and then you crack the valve. This thing was just, it didn't want to push any fluid out, which is really crazy to me. I don't know if this is common on these import cars, but I know on a GM car, we would be flowing pretty good right now. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking maybe I didn't get the line open quite far enough. Oh, that's perfect. You see those bubbles? That's what we're looking for. Man, there's a bunch of crud in that too. If you guys can see that little pieces of dirt that was in it. No wonder the brakes sucked. So I'm going to let this go until I either don't see any dirt and there's a random bubble coming out every once in a while. I'm going to make sure that we don't see any more of that. And then once we're clear there, then we'll go ahead and close this off. I'm going to crack it open a little more. It's like, to me, it's like borderline taking the bleeder out. The other thing I forgot to tell you guys, I do generally put a little bit of fluid in here just in case it back feeds. It generally doesn't, but if it did, a little bit of fluid in the bottom of this container kind of helps you out. So it's been a couple minutes here and I haven't seen any more bubbles, so I'm going to consider this good. I've got a pretty substantial amount of fluid that's came out of this thing, and so I might see if I can get it to the top here of the little sticker, and then once we get there I might go ahead and close it off. I haven't seen, like I said, I haven't seen any more bubbles, which is a good sign. It's crazy because I can't see it flowing anymore, but I can see it getting higher in the reservoir here. All right, let's close this thing off. Now when I do this, generally what I do is I pinch this, so you're trying to get as little fluid as possible. Let it drain, and then this guy has a spot to put this while you're not using it, which makes that really nice to not spill it on anything else. And then I'm going to take a little brake clean and just clean up this area where some has dripped. The absolute worst thing ever is having that drip back out. The other thing is I watched somebody that did this, and it's probably a good idea. He takes some little paint brushes, like touch-up brushes, and pushes them in this hole to get any fluid out that could come out later. And it's probably a great idea because sometimes that will fly out, get on the inside of the barrel of your wheels and etch a set of wheels. And this guy was working, he said, on some pretty expensive stuff, and I can imagine how bad that would be if you had a $10,000, $15,000 set of wheels and this stuff leaked on the center and caused some sort of issue. That would be terrible. Now we've moved on to the other side, and I went ahead and took the piece of rubber completely off. To me, it just gets in the way. So let's see. I need to glue a magnet to this thing. Let's see how much we get here. Holy cow. There we go. I'm still not getting, yeah, there's some air in there. Not a lot though. It is nice to be a one-person procedure. And between the other side and this side, I did go pump it up. It only came down to 10, but I'm just trying to keep it as close to 14, 15 as possible. And I'm not seeing a ton of air here, guys, which making me think maybe there's some air in the ABS system, which I do not have the ability to bleed that. You need the ability to turn the ABS on. I'm not sure if you can jumper across something to make the ABS engage, but I don't think I have the ability to bleed that. Yeah, we're not getting enough air here. That other side it had some air in it. I'm going to go ahead and tighten this off. And we will move to the front passenger side. Now we are up here on the passenger side front, on the inside, because this is a dual piston or a 6 piston, so there's a bleeder on the inside and outside. I'm going to go ahead and crack the inside one. And remember, between each section you want to pump up your pump, making sure it stays at the 14. I'm getting a couple air bubbles here and there, but nothing major. What I'll probably do is I'll do the rest of this. So the next one I'm going to do is the outside here, and then we'll go to the inside on the driver's side, and then the outside, and then I will probably repeat it just to make sure that, you know, no issues. The other thing, guys, make sure you don't get this over full. You don't want it overflowing or running out of room while you're doing this. Believe me, that makes a huge mess. We're going to call that one good. So I won't show you guys the rest of this. What I'll do is, like I said, I'm going to finish up, and then we will put the wheels back on. I'm going to do it a second time all the way around. We'll put the wheels back on, and we'll see if it improved our situation. At this point, we've went through it twice, and as I finished the second time, I went ahead and put the wheel on. So all we have to do at this point is you have to relieve the pressure here. Like I said, you're going to want to loosen the cap on this. Do not loosen the cap over there. So we're going to go ahead, loosen the cap here, let that drain back, make sure that the fluid is topped off, which I'm sure that it is, since that was pushing fluid in as we went. But other than that, we just need to hook up the cap, torque the wheels, and we're going to take it out and test it. So what I'll do is, I think I'll go ahead and get all that finished. 90 foot-pounds is what you torque the wheels to on these cars. And guys, I will say that I'm impressed with this thing. It does make it way easier for a one-person operation, and honestly, I think it probably does a better job because you can push fluid through continuously instead of like opening, closing, opening, closing. To me, it's just a little better process. But we're going to go ahead and get all that done, and then we'll take you guys on the road and see if it made an improvement. So we're in this thing, going to take it on a maiden voyage here. And I will say that the pedal feels way, way more sturdy. But I'm going to back out of the garage. We'll get on the road, and that'll be the true test. Well, I can tell you guys, without a doubt, that fixed it. My wife was complaining about the stopping, and it is like night and day difference. It's so much better now. Like, you would have to really stand on it to get it to stop, and now it's back where it's supposed to be. So exciting that just bleeding the brakes the proper way. And like I said, guys, I did bleed it with the two-person method, but maybe on these cars they need something like that. But we're going to take it down the road. I'm actually going to have her drive it and see what she thinks, and then we'll come back with my final thoughts. So we're back, guys, and not only did I drive it, but I let my wife drive it, and she just didn't want to go on camera. But she said that it was absolutely twice the braking that she had before, and it was more like what we had originally with the old pads. So, you know, initially I said when I put those pads on, I wasn't really in love with them. Well, I think the main reason is because they weren't bled out correctly. And so the stopping power is right back where it was. Maybe the initial bite is just a hair different than the old pads that dusted up everything, but just bleeding the brakes absolutely changed the whole driving experience. It was pretty bad. Honestly, I probably shouldn't even have had her driving it. And but she said it was okay. She was just going to have to get used to it. But now, after taking it down the road, she's like, yes, that's exactly what it was like when we bought it. So I love this thing. I can't believe that I didn't buy one of these things a long time ago. And you can see I've got a big mess to clean up, but I've got it kind of stretched out, trying to get all the fluid out of the hose, and so I can get it cleaned up and stored away. But guys, I think that thing is absolutely worth it. Like I said, so is the catch container. I can't believe that I've been missing this all these years. I know a couple people have talked about them, but never really used one, and it's going to make things a whole lot easier when I go to bleed the Trans Am. Anytime I change any brakes, you know, I've always been kind of leery of taking brake lines off just because I didn't want to have to go through that process, have somebody come out and help me pump it. And I think this does a better job. Like I said, it can just flow until there's no air, and you just keep pumping up the front, keep fluid in it, and pretty easy process. But like I said, I'll list all that stuff in the description down below. If you guys like this video, if you think that's something that you could use, let me know. Like I said, I upgraded to the billet caps, and to me that makes things a little nicer, and I think it'll last a lot longer with those billet caps instead of the cheap plastic ones. Also, I need to get a quick disconnect so I don't have to constantly change back and forth. Now, like I said, I don't think I'll be doing a ton of European stuff, but it would be nice to just use that quick disconnect. But if you guys did like this video, like always, please smash that thumbs up button. If you are not subscribed, guys, go down there, hit the subscribe button, make sure you ring that bell icon. That notifies you every time we drop a new video, and stay tuned to see what we work on next.